Sometimes when you get stuck in life, you start thinking that this is the end and like it's nothing really working out and you don't really see a way forward and you just feel frustrated, empty, and exhausted at the same time. But you guys gotta understand that we are all human beings, and at the end of the day, we all have our own unique paths in life, even if it doesn't feel like it right now. Just because you fumbled with a girl doesn't mean you're ugly, and even if you've messed up 100 times, it still doesn't mean you're a loser. It just means you're going through your own process. Because success is not something random that just happens to people. It's more about your passion, your skill set, your dedication, and just being consistent over time. Even when you don't see results immediately. We weren't born with knowledge in our heads, and we are always learning something, whether we notice it or not. When you're a kid, you learn how to read, write, and speak. And when you're studying at university, you learn more complex things that you'll probably need later for your career or whatever you decide to do. But at the same time, no one really teaches you how to talk to people properly or how to actually socialize and connect with others in real life. And that's probably one of the biggest problems. Because if a guy who has no experience with dating apps tries to talk to a random girl he just met with, he's most likely gonna fumble. And yeah, probably pretty badly, and then he just gonna feel upset about it afterwards. And that's exactly why speaking to people and socializing is so important, not just online, but in real life too. And I'm not saying you should only talk to your friends or family because that's comfortable, but it doesn't really push you. You need real experience, you need to fumble sometimes, you need rejection because that's how you actually grow. Like, think about your friend group for a second. How did you even understand that you were meant to be friends in the first place? Maybe it was just a coincidence, maybe you just met at the right time in the right place and things kind of clicked. But at the same time, you probably had situations where you met someone and thought they were gonna be your friend. Everything felt good. At the beginning, you were on a good terms, and then suddenly they just disappeared from your life. Or maybe you were in college and you made a new friend during the first couple of months, and maybe they dropped out or something changed and you just stopped talking completely. And what happens after that? You just move on, you try to talk to someone else, you meet new people, and eventually you build new connections and new friendships. And it's literally the same thing with girls. If a girl ghosts you or doesn't show up to a date, yeah, it sucks, but you just move on to the next one because that's just how it works. That's why your own experience is so important because every situation teaches you something even if you don't realize it right away. Maybe the girl just wasn't right for you, or maybe your standards are too high at the moment. And yeah, as a man, you should have standards too. Because let's be honest, a lot of girls are picky, but at the same time, not all of them are really worth your time or energy. Now, when we talk about experience, what I really mean is that when you go on dates and actually talk to people, you start learning things that you never really noticed before. Not just about women, but about people in general. You begin to understand certain patterns, you see how people react in different situations, and over time, you kind of rewire your brain to respond differently. Because a lot of the situations repeat themselves, even if they look different on the surface. And an inexperienced guy in those situations usually doesn't know what to do. He hesitates, overthinks, or just freezes. But a guy who has been on a lot of days before will react differently. He'll be more calm, more confident, and just more aware of what's going on. And naturally, his results are gonna be better. That's why it's so important to keep learning, to get real life experience, and to talk to people, not only women, but people in general. You need to explore, you need to practice, and you need to go through things yourself instead of just thinking about them. Because if you only learn theory and never apply it in real life, you're not really going anywhere. You can read a book about how to make friends, but if you never actually try it, you're probably just gonna forget everything anyway. And that's why it's so important to experience things yourself instead of just sitting around and watching endless videos about how to text a girl or how to act on a date. Because at the end of the day, everything really comes down to experience.